for, little cheap rings. I put this ring on my finger and I walked around the store with it. And pretty much the whole time I was walking around the store, I was considering stealing this ring. So I'm not going to lie and say I wasn't going to steal it. I was considering stealing the ring. There was a point where I stuck it on my finger. Then I thought, no, they'll probably see that. So I stuck it in my mouth for a while. I literally was considering stealing the ring, in all honesty. And I really didn't really steal ever because, again, so my mom tells me to show my sister or my brother where the payphone was outside. I don't know why. I can't remember exactly the whole story. But all I remember is the second I stepped outside the store to show where the payphone was, two guys grabbed me real quick. They grabbed me and they go, "You got busted, you're stealing, we're taking you in." So they pull me into one of those back rooms where they pull all the thieves and everything, right? Somehow during that time, they got in touch with my mom. My brother saw it or something and told my mom, hey, they just took Demitrius to the back. He just got caught stealing. And I remember telling the guys, I wasn't even going to steal. I hadn't even decided yet. I was just showing him, So, my mom comes back in there. And they say, and here's probably, I wasn't in there, but this is probably what it looked like. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? You're stealing? You're a thief. That's what you're going to be. Okay, take off all your clothes. Pull them off. He starts literally pulling my clothes off. The guys, the security guys were now looking at me do we need to defend you now? I don't know if we're okay with this. Strips me down to my underwear. I am not kidding you. I am standing there with my pants at my ankles and my mom saying, "Do you have anything else on you? You have anything else on you?" The guys literally took out a ledger. They said, "Listen, man, we want to show you something. Here is a list of all the names of people who have ever stolen something inside of here before. And if you look next to their names, every one of them says arrested, 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 arrested." They go, "But you know what? We think it's going to be worse for you to go home with your mom than for us to arrest you." And I was literally sitting there thinking, no, arrest me. You guys should do what you were brought here to do. You arrest everyone. There should not be any exceptions for me. They didn't. And that was bad for me. But again, it really comes down to realizing that no matter how much you think the chips are down, how much you think the ball's not bouncing in your court, how much you think the world is against you, that everyone has a chance to grow. And all of these people, all of this support staff that I had taught me that if you are ever going to get anything in your life, it's pretty much simple. It only takes a certain bit of things in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And every one of those people, my mother, my coaches, my girlfriend, my counselors, my teachers, the support staff at the school, everyone taught me that in order to get there, you would need nothing but, if I can get this going, I can't. There we go, hard work. I was taught at a young age that hard work was very important because I had a mother who worked sometimes 2 or 3 jobs while going to school at night. So there was really never any excuse to not get things done. Sure, I was able to get away with some things because maybe she was busy, but hard work was very important. There was times in my life, dedication, that my coaches, we would go away, we would go home for Christmas break. Okay? During Christmas break, usually what you do when you're in college is you find your friends and you go out and you party. And I'm not saying that never happened, but most of the time, I was at this park in Manteca with a sled with 50 pounds on it, and I was running uphill because I wanted to be the best track athlete that I could be, and I knew that there was no way for me to make excuses because the examples that I had in my life, my mother was not going to allow that. Perseverance, I think, is a very important term because I think that a lot of times in our life we have to persevere through things. I know, and I'm not standing here, sometimes when you speak, you stand on a pedestal and it sounds like you've done everything right. And that is not the truth at all. I've never done everything right. But I did realize also is that, there was times I left college, for instance. This is something that my mother, my niece, some people don't know. I left college at Fresno State without my degree. I pretended to have my degree for probably about 6 or 7 years. I never showed it to anyone, obviously, because I didn't have it, but no one asked, no one questioned it. But I went on and I left school without a degree with the thought that I was going to finish it at some time. I never finished it until I was asked to coach here at MJC. And in order to coach here, I had to have my bachelor's degree. And then I was told if you were to get your master's degree, then you could even teach here. So without telling anyone, I went to night school to take those last 3 or 4 classes, and I finished my bachelor's degree. And then while we had one daughter and my wife was pregnant with the second, I got my master's degree. And I was driving literally I was working here at MJC until about 4:30, and then I would get in my truck and I would drive to Fresno for school. And here's the funny thing. There were times when I was driving on the freeway, going to Fresno with a laptop on my lap, typing up an essay. The month of June, during that year that I was getting my master's degree, I got 3 tickets in Fresno for speeding. I can't even believe this actually happened. I went to court. The judge looks at me and says, "What happened in June?" And I explained to him, I was getting my master's degree, got this job. If I finish my master's, I'll be able to get it and all these things, And he looks at me and he says, "You know what? You seem like a nice guy. You've had a rough day." He got rid of 2 of the tickets, knocked down another ticket to like 60 miles an hour or 10 miles over the speed limit, and let me go there. All of those things was perseverance, because after getting 2 of those tickets and not knowing how I was going to pay for them, I really considered just giving up on getting that master's degree. But I knew that my wife, my newborn daughter, they were counting on me to finish these things up. Resilience. Talked about that. All of these terms kind of mean the same. Tenacity, I just love the word. I think it's so important. I talk to my athletes, like, you have to be tenacious. You have to want it. You got to go after it. I really believe those things. I really believe that the difference between a weed and a flower is literally just perspective. Think about this for a second. It literally is just perspective. It is really how you perceive your life to be. You can decide to give up because it's too hard, but think about a weed never does, right? It's probably in there underground. It's probably, trying to go up this way, trying to go up that way. It's popping and locking and all this. I'm not going to do that too long because I can't remember how to do all that. But it's literally just perspective. If you look at this picture of a weed right here, it looks like a flower. If you look at these two, you have a weed and you have a flower, and it's literally just perspective. And so one of the things that I like to remember is that no matter what you ever go through in life, no matter how much you think things are bad for you, you have to persevere. You have to be resilient. You have to be tenacious. You have to want it. You have to go get it. Because I really believe that there are resources for everyone. And I think that it's very important for everyone to take every opportunity, every resource that is afforded to you, so that one day your perspective will change, and that one day you will be able to work your way through things, persevere through things until you see the light, until you become the better person, the more successful person that you can be. And we have to remember something. A lot of times we think of success as, the big mansion and living these fast lifestyles. And like Brian said at the beginning of this, there are so many people within your community that you sit next to every day, the teachers, the professors, the deans, the administrators, that are successful people. And they're all there to be there to help you get through whatever that you need to get through in life. And so if I could leave you guys with one thing, it is the importance of being resilient, pushing through, like literally pushing through, because times are hard. There are going to be days that you want to give up, okay? And there are still days in my life that I think, gosh, this is hard to get through, But you just can't. You really just can't. And I think it's very important for us to leave here with that thought. And I really do thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate you giving me your ear for a second, and I appreciate the respect that you guys showed me as well. And I look forward to doing more of these, and I think we should thank Brian for putting these on because they're so important for our community to get in here and listen to people who have been through things that we're going through in our life, to kind of get you to realize that everyone goes through things, but we all got to find a way to get through it. You know, one of the things I always tell my athletes is that, you know, my dean calls me and says, Demetrius, grades are due at 6 p.m. tonight. I don't get to tell him, well, you know, Dean, my dad wasn't real nice to me when I was a kid, so I'm not going to get those grades in. No, it doesn't work, you know. Officer, I robbed that store because, yeah, you know, I just grew up, it was tough for me. You know, and I'm not saying that things aren't tough because they are. But my goal, my job to my athletes and my students is to tell them that no matter how tough it gets, you have to push through. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves, and thank you for coming. I'm Demitrius Snaer.
Okay, so we have time for a little Q&A, but we have to know who your mom is. I mean,
my mom's right there.
So we can get her to stand up real quick. Stand up.
You guys probably should ask her some questions.
All right, so do we have any questions from any of our students or our guests tonight? Yes.
How old were you when you were still in the ring?
Say what?
How old were you when you stole the ring?
I think I was 13, maybe 14, and I looked real young, so they thought I was like 10 at the time. Because until I was probably 16, I looked probably 5-10 years younger than I was. It was pretty bad. Yeah.
Other questions?
What was your least favorite event to run?
My least favorite event was the 400, which was my best event. And you know, till this day, I went to my coach in college and I said, what do I need to run in order for you to allow me to never run the 400 ever again? And he said, if you run 10.4 in the 100, you'd never have to run the 400. And so that meet, I ran 10.4. And then the last meet of the year, he put me on the 4x4 just because a guy faked an injury, which this guy always did. And I ran the best time of my life. And he told me that day, I wish I would have never allowed you to get out of the 400 because you probably would have been world class. It was my best event. It was the event that I went to state in. It was the event that I won state in, but it just gave me stomach aches before I ever ran it. It was tough.
How come you never used racism to not go to school?
Why did I never use
Racism.
Racism? Yeah. Racism.
Oh, racism. You know, it's funny because I remember there was a time when I went home, something happened in school, and I went home and I told my mom that, I think someone's racist and that's why they did that. And I remember her telling me, you're going to have to come up with something better than that. She just really never allowed us to use those types of excuses. And not to say that those things weren't happening, but she's always just told me, you know, you have to come up with something better than that. You know, you have to fight better to get that job. You have to fight better to go to school. So it just never was a part of. And you know, we've had things happen in our family with our daughters where maybe some people would say, oh, that may be, you know, a prejudiced teacher or a racist teacher. And my thing is always, you can always persevere past that as well. I don't know. It's just never been something that I've made a big deal of. And, you know, there was a time I had an athlete who posted on Facebook and he said, yeah, I just got a ticket, racist cop. And I'm not saying cops, there are some racist cops, but everyone was on his post saying, oh, these racist cops, blah, blah, this and that. I go, how fast were you going and what was the speed limit? He goes, I was going 95 and a 55. And I go, you got a ticket for speeding, okay? So that's kind of what, you know, I guess logic that I was taught.
Other questions? Come on, students, especially our student leaders here. Nobody else has a question? Yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, how were you able to overcome not having a dad in your life? There was a time in my life, I never knew my dad, and he died before I was able to establish a relationship with him. How did you get through that?
There were times where it was tough because two of my best friends had really good fathers that were around a lot. But like I kind of said, my mom was at everything. I mean, I say we were poor, but we really never knew it. My mom always found a way to get to things. And so I don't know. And I had an older brother, that was always there as well for me. But I just think that, and even now as an adult, I really don't miss that anymore just because the things that I saw, I just don't respect. And so it was kind of a little bit easier for me. But I think just the support system that I had, the very good mother, the good coaches, and to this day, I think of my high school track coach as like my biggest father figure, even though he let my brother beat me up. He was just a great guy who tried to kind of fill that void. I remember calling him from college and saying, hey, I did this, I did that in this race, and he would say, yeah, how close are you to getting your degree? And that was really the most important thing. So that's pretty much it. I honestly don't remember the hard times that much because it's been 25, 30 years now. But at the same time, I just know that having a good support group, good support system is very important.
So piggybacking off of that, growing up without a dad, what's it like now being a dad, and how would you rate yourself as a dad? I'm
probably, if you asked my daughters that question, they'd probably, I think I'm probably a little overzealous sometimes. I think I could probably be sometimes defined as a helicopter parent. But I literally, whereas some people may do it as a way to kind of impose their will or show their dominance, my point for being at at any time I could get to my daughter's track practice or my daughter's track meet or my daughter's basketball practice or anything like that is because I really do enjoy it. I honestly do just enjoy being there to see them grow up. I think it's something that you have to cherish as a parent. So I don't know. That might be a good question for my daughters who are sitting here. I had a student in my class say that her dad makes her get up at 4 a.m. every day to go running, and she's a boxer or something like that. And I remember saying to her, wow, I wonder if my daughters would describe it that way, because I remember there were times when they first started running, it was because I'd go running and they were younger and they'd go, hey, can I come with you? And then at a certain point I'd say, well, now you guys need to do a little bit of exercising and everything like that. But man, I take that probably as the biggest, most important responsibility, but I do love it. I love it so much. I think there's nothing like being a parent and being there for everything, Even before my daughters were born, I had my niece, and my sister had her, and I spent so much time with her that she thought, I think at one point I was her dad, and then thought that I was her older brother. And just didn't know, because I've always just enjoyed that part of things. So I love it.
Any other questions, folks?
So how old were you when you got your master's and your bachelor's?
I think I was maybe 20. Yeah. 30? Oh, 30. Yep. 29, 30, 31 for my master's degree, and the bachelor's came a little bit before that because I literally went about 6 years pretending that I had it. And what's funny is I actually got some jobs that thought I had it just because I remember I applied for a job at the county, and my mother-in-law would remember this because she worked there. And she came in and she's like, oh, they love you in the interview. Or so. I think I had her bring some papers that I had forgotten or something like that, or they were running off, and like, they love you in here and everything. And I remember thinking, like, I hope they don't ask for my bachelor's degree. But I got away with that somehow. So.
Do you plan on going back to school at all?
Yeah, you know what? There's been about a few times that I've looked into the educational doctorate degree. Just they expect a lot of weekend commitment, which is when we have track meets. So I don't know. I thought about doing it maybe when my daughters are in college or something, when I have more time. But right now, I don't know if it's going to happen. But my wife was asking me just the other day, what would you do if you could do anything? And I was like, I really love what I do. That's one thing I think loving what you do is important. I love teaching. I love coaching. But I thought, I'd like to get better at public speaking and maybe do that too. So yeah, I don't know. Because I spent a lot of time in school. I mean, my bachelor's degree is in broadcast journalism. And so I did a little bit of that, and then I went into teaching. So we'll see.
What advice would you give to kids that love a certain sport and there's just not enough of it in school or in the community?
I would say find a way to do it. There was Manteca Unified just implemented boys volleyball, and there was a mom there who her daughter played volleyball, her son played volleyball, and they had to take him to the Bay Area all the time to play the sport. And she fought and went to city council meetings and just fought and fought until they got boys volleyball. So I think if you really enjoy it, you should do it and do it as much as you can. And I recently had an athlete call me. He's 26 years old. He was on my team 7 or 10 years ago. And he said, Coach, I'm thinking about, he goes, give me your complete, true answer to this. Don't sugarcoat anything for me. He said, I'm considering dropping everything I'm doing right now and going all in on becoming a decathlete and trying to make the Romanian Olympic team. And he doesn't have a wife, he doesn't have any kids, he's a teacher. And I said, I would do it. I carry my 41-year-old legs out to the track every day and I run and kill myself because I love running. So why not do something until you have exhausted all of your opportunities? So I think if it's not there, go where it is, do it as much as you can. I wouldn't say, sometimes I might say find another sport, but I don't know. If it's something that you really enjoy doing, I would say find a way to do it.
So before you went back to school, what made you want to or what got you involved with coaching here? And then in addition to that, what do you like most about MJC?
So I was coaching at my old high school, and we were having, a relatively good success. And the coach here, the women's coach here, came and asked me if I would like to be an assistant coach here at MJC. I said, you know what, I already committed to another year at the high school, so I'm going to stay there. And then a few weeks later, the men's coach here came and asked me the same question, how would you like to be the assistant here? And I told him the same thing, and the women's coach came back to me again. Finally, they talked me into coming here one day a week. I asked the head coach at the high school I was at if I could come to MJC one day a week and help out and then be there 4 days a week, and he said sure. And so I did it for a day a week. I wrote their workouts. I tried to get as many track meets as I could, and then got to a point where the high school, after that year was over, I said, I think I'm going to, take advantage of going over to MJC. And so I did. I just enjoyed it. One thing was because I had good support, I had good relationships with my coaches, I always wanted to be in that position. What I love about MJC is the relationships. I always tell my athletes, when you get, I'm very nurturing. You can be late a couple times and I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm not a yeller, really. I'm more of a, let's talk logically. Let's talk about the importance of being here on time and things like that. But I tell them, I go, this is not the way things are at the next level. I'm at this level because I do love the relationships. I love to be able to be nurturing, have relationships. A lot of my athletes come back and see me. They call me. I get text messages all the time from my former athletes, and I love that. I didn't have that type of relationship with my coach at Fresno State because their jobs depend on how well you do. So their bottom line is winning. And if you're not producing for them, you get a little bit different of an attitude from them. I pulled my hamstring my senior year, and it was like I didn't exist for a while there. Whereas if a kid pulls his hamstring here, they're still going to have a good relationship with me because my job doesn't depend on winning or losing. My job depends on being a professor, being an instructor, and being a mentor to the student athletes here. So honestly, that's what I really love about it. My wife could attest to this. There are times when, I've left the house to go and pick up an athlete to help them move out, late at night, or there are times that I've had to help someone move out of their home because of an abusive situation. I love that about this job. As a matter of fact, I think Brian and I had a conversation about that once. I love that about this job. I love just the relationships and everything, and being able to be someone's mentor, friend, and sometimes father figure, sometimes older brother. I used to be like an older brother to everyone. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm a father figure. So I got to get over that.
Any other questions?
From a sport coach perspective, what kind of leadership advice would you give to student leaders?
Sometimes I think some of the ways I deal with leadership might be contradicting to what, just because I feel like I am always logical. I think that's the way I was raised at a certain point, to where my mom didn't just say, no, it's this way because I said so. It was, here's why, and so that's the way I am. I think it's important, and from a leadership role, to sometimes be very authoritarian, but then it's also important sometimes to be authoritative and to give a little bit of leeway and to be someone that can sit down with someone and be logical. I think fear is not a way to lead. I think respect is the most important way to lead. So I try to gain respect from my athletes rather than fear. I think, when I was a kid, when my dad got home, we were afraid, of what might happen. I would hope that my kids, when I get home, they're not afraid. They're more respectful, and they maybe clean up, well, they don't. But maybe they would clean up because they respect me, not because they fear what I would do. So I think leadership from a more of a respect level than a fear level is important. And I think my students would say that as well. That I don't, when someone's late, or I try to have a conversation with them. There might be a punishment, but I'm